Hi, everyone. How is everyone? That's great. Everybody's checking in. I'm just trying to get my comments up here. Thanks everyone for joining us. Great to see you. We've got a really great program today. Just see if I can see us. My phone is always slow on the uptake. Oh, yep, I'm here. I see you. All right. Oh gosh, I can't see the comments. That's really weird. Give me a second, y'all. Thanks so much. Let's see what it says here. Oh, I can do it this way. All right. Thanks, Patty. And Patty, I got both Patties, and Kathy all the way from the East Coast. That's great. Debbie, Paul, how you doing? All right, I'm so glad everybody is here today. I have a bit of a strange setup today, so you're going to see me climbing over cameras and stuff to show you all these great techniques. So thanks so much for joining us today. It's been a really great week here at BERNINA Canada. Here, I'll show you my face that I'm here. See, I'm here. Hi everyone, it's Adrienne from BERNINA Canada. We had a really crazy couple of weeks here and I managed to get some sewing done, and I wanted to show you some things that I remembered, learned, and share with you this really cool tunic that I made. So let's get to it. I see everybody's here. I've made this really cool tunic. I thought it would be a great garment to get me back on track with sewing with garments because no zippers, no buttons, a really easy fit, and I'm using a very nice material. I got like a sweatshirt material, so you know, not a terry cloth, but the sweatshirt with the fleece on the inside, so it's nice and warm. I've been wearing this for the last couple of days, and I have to say I love it. It keeps me warm, but it doesn't add a lot of bulk in the sleeves, so when I go put my big parka on, you know what I'm talking about in Canada these days, it's really comfortable and easy for me to wear. So I wanted to show you how easy it was to make, the process, some things I learned, and where you can find this project too. All right, let's switch over to the other camera and we'll get started. All right. Oh yeah, it's a great day to be inside sewing, isn't it? Because it is cold. I hope everybody is warm where you are, and I hope you're doing okay in Mississippi, because my sister is in Texas and she's frozen. So stay warm, everybody. Debbie's doing great. Okay, that's good. So today I'm talking about this really cute wrap tunic pattern. This is an image of the pattern. It's a bernette pattern. You can find it on bernette.com and just look under the tab at the top that says sewing projects, and you can download the pattern and the instructions. You'll see about 4 or 5 different files there. You can print out the pattern on letter size paper or European A4 paper, or there's even a file that you can print it all out on one large sheet if you have access to a large format printer. So this is the project we're making today. I can put this aside, and here's what the pattern looks like. Another great thing about this pattern is there's just 2 pieces to it. You just need a back and 2 front pieces to create the crossover. It's really, really simple. It's made for knit fabric, so you want to use a jersey, a ponte knit, a sweater knit, something like that. I just used regular old sweatshirt material. I'll show you what I used. I just used regular, beautiful quality sweatshirt material, and I pre-washed it. You don't need a lot of material for this. I bought 2 meters. That was about a half a meter too much. I never seem to follow the instructions very well. So what I've done is I've just printed this out, shrunk down onto one piece of paper to show you, but you would print it out at proper 100% scale and tape it all together like I did at home, but it was just too hard to show you how to do that. And then what I did was I laid tracing paper on top and traced out my size. So I still keep this pattern intact in case I want to make a different size, but I just traced out the size that I chose, which I think was the size 42, something like that. So now a special note about these patterns is this is done very much in the European style, and there's no seam allowances on here, which is great because you get to customize and pick the seam allowance that you like. But in North America, we're often very accustomed to the seam allowances being included. So you just have to remember to add seam allowances, and you can just put the back portion on the fold and squeeze this guy in here like this, or maybe I'll put him up here like that. Perfect on this fabric, just like that. So this one's on the fold. I got to leave a little bit of space for seam allowance, and this one just put to the side. And if your fabric is narrow, you can kind of shift them like this. And just remember to leave a room and mark in your seam allowances. Now, how do you know what seam allowance to add? The patterns are actually really simple to follow. The seam allowance is marked for you. It's hard to see on mine, but it's always marked on the pattern in this circle. So here it says to add 4 centimeters for the seam allowance, and here it says to add 1 and 1 and 1, and here it says 2 and 1 and so on. So when I cut this out, I just trace it quickly with chalk, and I leave that, add that seam allowance, and then I cut it out. So that's how I did mine. This is the little mini version, and all you need is 1 back, like that, and 2 fronts. And basically these go together. If you've ever made a t-shirt, it goes together very much like a t-shirt. You kind of sew the sides together, then you sew the shoulders, and then you do the finishing. So it's really quite a simple process. So basically it goes like this. So not to worry about this too much, let's talk about what kind of sewing machine you need to create this project. So this project was done and designed, for the Bernette B64 air thread overlocker. And sewing with knits is a lot easier using an overlocker. That is for sure. So I decided, I used a different one at home, but I'll show you on this B64 here. And I just want to show you a couple of the decorative elements on this tunic so you can see it up close. Let's go back to the other camera. All right, so here you can see, wow, my folding is not very good, huh, Paul? Oh, well. Here we go. All right, so what they did was they put a decorative stitch down the front side. You can see that in the picture. They did that very simply with some black on the purple. That's that element right here. I decided to do it in a multicolored thread, and there's 2 different options to do this. You can use the B64 and do a decorative flat lock, which sounds really tricky, but it's easy as pie, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Or if you have a cover hem machine, you could do a decorative cover hem here, and I'm going to show you the difference and how to set up each stitch, because I always find that really interesting. So basically what the pattern says to do is to do this decorative element, then you sew the top shoulder seams together using a 4-thread overlock, then you sew the sides together in the same manner, and then they suggest that you just overlock the edge of the fabric. Even though it's a knit, you don't really have to do that step, but it does look really nice. And then they say to use a cover hem machine to sew it down. Now, I didn't have a cover hem machine at home, so I did the old trick where I used a twin needle and I'm going to share some tips on how I did my finishing to have this nice professional finish at home. All right, now I can go back to the machine. That's awesome. So flat lock, a lot of people are kind of intimidated by flat lock sewing. It's a great way to join stitches together or join fabric together, or you can make a decorative element. We can also use it for hemming. You can use it for all kinds of things. Every machine will have a slightly different setting for flat lock, but most sergers will come with a quick reference guide that shows all the stitches and their quick setups. So let me show you how that works on this B64 airlock. All right, I'm going to thread this live because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I thought you might like to see how to thread this guy. So I'm just going to cut the threads because a lot of people are not sure how to thread an overlocker. So I've cut my threads, my foot is up, and I'm just going to remove the threads. I've got a caught thread. There we go. And I pulled the threads all out the way that they go through the machine, and that's to prevent any snags, anything like that. Does anybody have an overlocker at home? Do you like to use your overlocker? What do you sew in your overlocker? I'm really getting into sewing garments, so let's check that out. So for flat lock, we're gonna thread the lower looper. And normally you would have to thread it manually and pass it through, but this has air threading. So we're just going to thread it very simply here by pulling out about 1/2 meter of thread. And I have to just put the machine into threading mode, which just means pushing a lever here, threading mode, and connecting the little tubes that it goes through. Very simple. And then I just place my thread into the hole that's marked lower looper, L, and press the button. And it was so fast you couldn't see it, but it just shot through the lower looper here. That's it. That's all I have to do for threading. Woo! It's easy to thread a serger these days. It's so easy with air threading. Okay, and then I just put it underneath my presser foot so that it's ready to sew. Because this is going to be a decorative stitch, I'm going to try threading a different type of thread in here. So at home I used quilting cotton. Today I'm going to try a little bit of Mirage by Wonderfill. It's a really pretty shiny rayon thread. Let's see how that works. So I'm going to put that where the upper looper thread should go. I'm going to pass it under the retention unit in the tension discs. My presser foot is up so that I can thread in the tension units, and guess what? I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to pull out some thread, put it in the little hole, and ask it to thread. Done. That's it. That's how hard it is to thread an airlock serger. I know, pretty good. I'm just getting the threads underneath the foot. I don't like them to get tangled on the first stitch, so I like to put them all underneath the foot, sort of going at a 45-degree angle. That's just what makes me happy. All right, so I finished that part of the threading, so I'm going to turn it back to serging because I always forget, right? Yeah. Paul uses it to collect dust. Yeah, Paul, you got to use it for edges, and you're a quilter. You could use your overlocker for covering the edges of your quilt and then putting the binding on. I'm sure you do all kinds of fun things like that. Yeah. And Carol, I wonder what Carol does with her serger. Anna only has 6 sergers. Okay, Anna, I got to catch up with you sometime. And Kathy's loving her 460. Yeah, that's what I sewed my sample on, the 460, Kathy. I absolutely love it. Oh, I'm doing flat lock. I'm doing 3-thread flat lock wide, so I don't need the green needle. I'm just going to do the left needle, and threading for the needle is really simple. If you've threaded your sewing machine, you can thread the needle on a serger. There we go. I'm almost done. The hardest part is the needle. This one is provided with a needle threader, but I just really like using my tweezers. I shouldn't have had those 5 T's, Kathy, because now I can't thread it. Too much caffeine, so much fun. Yeah. Anyway, I was really surprised how well this tunic fit, and you can adjust the fit by how you sew the sleeve together. So I think my kids are getting these this weekend. We can probably make some more. I have some nice Ponte knit at home, or sweater knit. They like slouchy sweater type things, so maybe I'll make that. Yeah. Anna, you're thinking about the air threading, I know. So I'm really thinking about the 890 for my home when it comes out in June, but I'm really enjoying using this one at work today. All right, so we're ready to try a flat lock. I don't need this anymore because I know what I'm doing. Oh wait, I got to set the tensions. So on this stitch, it says to set the tensions, 3 thread, flat lock, wide. 5, 9, and 0. Okay, so the needle should be at 0. I'm going to put it at 1. I'm going to put it at half. Looper should be at 5 and a half. We're going to go 5 and a half, and it says 9. Okay, we'll go for max. All right, so when we sew this flat lock guy, this should be looking like garbage. If it looks like garbage, I did it right. Where's my sample fabric? Have you ever had a day where everything seems to fall on the floor? Okay, so remember we're doing it along the front of the tunic, that front piece. So what you would do is you would mark where you want it to go. It's in the instructions. I think it's 5 centimeters in, something like that. And then you would fold it to the back, because the pretty flat lock is going to end up on the front of the tunic. And it looks really cool. Yeah, Janice, I really enjoyed that tunic. I liked it more than I thought. And my sister sent me a message saying she thought it looked really nice. And that's a code in our family for you could make me one of those. All right, so I've got the knife engaged and I'm just gonna sew this flat lock. It's gonna be loud. There's no soft surfaces in here. All right, it looks horrible. That is a good thing when it comes to flat lock, because the magic is all in, maybe you can't see it, but it's all kind of hanging off the edge here. It does not look good. The magic is when you give it a little bit of a pull, and it all lies flat. Now this time, it's not lying perfectly flat. Actually, it looks great. Can you see it there? It's a beautiful rainbow color, actually. That looks really good. I love it. That turned out perfectly. You always want to test on the fabric that you're going to sew on, and you want to sew it in the same grain, the same direction that you're going to do it on your final garment. So I might tweak this a little bit. I think there's just a bit too much fabric in there. I might make the cutting width a little bit smaller and maybe move my stitch finger out a little bit. Oh, I think that's what I did last time. I put the stitch finger out. Let's try that. I can try again. So that's one way to add a decorative element to your tunic. Perfect. I think I'm just not pulling it the same way I did before. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I really like that. It looks really nice. You could try a different type of thread too. You could try a thicker thread. So let's take a look at that actually. I'm a glutton for punishment today. Let's try that. This is a little bit of a Wonderful like sample pack that I got. And this is called Dazzle. And I have not tried this thread before. So let's give it a try. So we are going to remove that upper looper thread. That's the one that lays on the top of the fabric, and that would be the one that's going to provide the decorative element. So what we're going to do is remove that, put my presser foot up, and I can just pull it out. Come on out. There we go. It's all out of there. Why not? Now, this is pretty thick thread. On the label, it says 8 weight rayon. So definitely something we would not be able to put in the needle of our sewing machine or our serger. Probably not a great idea. But we could put it in a looper, right? The looper is a lot bigger. But we do have a problem in that this is an air thread machine. How are we gonna put it through the air threading? All right. So we'll bring this down. Oh, I don't like that. All right. I'm not going to put it in the pre-tensioner. That's going to give too much tension. I'm just going to put it right in there. And I'm going to bring it down to the upper looper. There's no way this will feed through. It is too thick. It's like a pearl cotton weight. So that's not going to work. So what could we do? Well, we could create something that's called a thread cradle. I don't make these things up, guys. I can't make this stuff up. But we can call it a thread cradle. I just took a length of my thread from my serger, and I'm gonna, it's a really big loop now. I am going to put the big yarn thing through the loop. Just let that hang out there. And yep, I'm gonna take those two ends and put them in the threading tube. Gotta get ready for threading. So put it to threading. The tubes are engaged. And it just shot through because it's like in a blink of an eye. And then I can just pull on that thread cradle. And do you see it's looped on my yarn, and it'll pull it right through. There we go. Done. Well, that was easy. So then we want to double check, does this have enough play that it's actually gonna, you know, work in this? Yeah, it moves freely, so I think it's gonna work. What could happen? It's just live Facebook. What could happen? I'm feeling brave today. Okay, I'm gonna put it back to serging. I'm gonna close the door or slam it, as the case may be. Now, you know I don't like my threads tangled. And they looked tangled, but now they look fine to me. Let's try it again. Yes, I love an experiment. Why not? All right. So this is a decorative element that you could choose to put on this tunic. If you didn't have an overlock machine, you could use a decorative stitch on your sewing machine. Sure, I'd get my walking foot out because it's on jersey. I'd get my walking foot out, a stretch needle, and go to town. That would be really fun. That would be a great place to put one of those decorative stitches. All right, presser foot definitely needs to be down. I'm gonna mind this thread. See if it's coming off. Yep. All right, let's see what happens. Danger zone. Oh my. I'm loving it. All right. Well, that looks really good. Can you see how nice that is? It's shiny, but it's hanging way off the edge. So let's pull it open and see. Hot diggity dog. Guys, it's perfectly flat. I don't know if you can see it there, but it is really, really flat. Let's put it on the table. Maybe you can see it better here. See it? Oh yeah, nice and flat. Came out even flatter than these ones. These ones look great too. But I think I love this. You can even put a yarn in there. You can put pearl cotton. You could put cotton from quilting in there, which is what I did on mine. But I think this glitzy one is really, really cool. As long as you can wash it, like how are you going to wash your final garment? I'm probably going to wash mine by machine and hang it up. So this rayon thread would probably be okay to be gently washed and hung to dry. So that's one way you could do that decorative element. There was another suggestion in the pattern to do cover hem. And you might have a cover hem machine at your disposal. Or you might not. You might not know what a cover hem machine does and how is it different than a serger. So what I'm doing right now is I am just unplugging this big serger and I'm going to move it and bring in my cute little cover hem machine. Oh, that airlock is really easy to use. I liked that. Got to play with that one a little bit more. All right, here is my cover hem. I'm struggling to get in here now, guys. Ate too much lunch. Okay, here it is. Boop, 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 boop. Ta-da! Cover hem machine. Totally different beast. What does a cover hem machine do that an overlocker doesn't do? Well, if you take a look at your t-shirt or something like that that you're wearing, it makes an entirely different stitch. It's a stretchy finish that is done with 2 or 3 needles, and there's only 1 looper in this machine. So let me show you what it looks like inside a cover hem machine, because not everybody has seen that. Let me take this fabric out of the way. All right, so inside here, it looked very much like our serger, but there's only 1 looper. Here's the looper way over here. And it's very simple to thread. You just come straight down and thread the looper. There's even a little looper assist in there, just a little lever that goes boop and threads the looper. It actually couldn't be easier. It's very simple. I did this 10 minutes before today's show. You'll also notice there's no cutting blade in here. This does not cut or trim. A cover hem doesn't trim fabric. There's usually no blade involved. And so the top of the machine will look a little bit different. There's usually a little plate that goes here to cover the area that would normally be sort of have the knife engaged. So you see how it's all smooth there? Yes. And usually you'll find screws on the base of the cover hem machine, and this is where you can attach a seam guide. Of course, I haven't grabbed my seam guide. We don't need one today because we're just playing around. So once you've done your cover hem, once you've threaded the looper, you can thread all 3 needles, which I've done in this case, or you can take the middle needle out and you'll have like a wide 2-needle cover hem, or you can do either pair of the needles. Those are the basic stitches for this machine. There's also a chain stitch, a decorative chain stitch as well. So let's take a look at what this stitch looks like. What I do want to tell you, a tip for cover hem machines is they really do not like to sew on no fabric. You have to have fabric underneath. So what I normally do for cover hem is I put a piece of fabric underneath the foot, get everything situated, and then I'm going to check a couple of stitches. This machine is awesome. The stitches look great. So now I'm going to go on to my decorative piece. Now, this was tricky. Remember, last time when we were doing the decorative stitch, we folded it so that the good side was out to get that flat lock on it. But when we're doing cover hem, we have to flip it upside down. We actually want the decorative part is going to be underneath. In this case, we want the honeycomb look. So here we go. I'm going to just sort of use like a leader there. That way I don't get my threads tangled. So you would mark the front of your garment, like the right side is the one that we're doing that has the decorative stitch. You'd transfer the mark to the inside of the piece. Now when I stitch off, I can do the same thing. I can stitch onto my leader. Guys, I turned up the heat. It is so hot in here. I'm covered in fleece and all kinds of layers. I'm finally warm. It's great. And I can just stitch off onto my ender piece. This way I get stitches all the way to the very end of my cover hem piece. So this is the sort of decorative stretchy side. So this allows you to have stretch so you can put this over your head. And you'll see this finish with 1 or 2 or 3 needles on active wear, yoga pants, t-shirts, swimwear, lingerie, all kinds of things like that. You'll see that a lot. Yeah, that flat lock turned out great. So this is a cover hem stitch. So you could have this on the front if you liked the triple stitching, or you could have this kind of look, which is what they have in the pattern piece itself. But if you don't have cover hem, you could use the flat lock that we did earlier, or you could get out your sewing machine and do a decorative stitch. So how do you end a cover lock stitch? I'll show you. You're going to go to the end, and I I'm going to just use my hand wheel so I'm accurate. Put the needles in the topmost position and lift the presser foot. Then you're going to grab, I usually use my tweezers or my stiletto, and just sweep under and pull those needle threads to the front. I'm just making some slack is what I'm doing. I can't watch the comments and do this at the same time. It slipped off. Just go like that, and then you just give them a trim, and you're done. Right? And then on your actual piece, you can treat it just like you would overlock. You can tie that in a knot, feed it back through in there if you like, or add some fray check, any of those finishing end seams that you like. You can even do the trick where you kind of flip it over or turn it around and sew back over, but I prefer to do it like this. I just tie a knot and hide it in the seam. So that is how to use a cover stitch machine, a cover hem machine. At Bernina, right now we have the B42, that's our cover hem machine. We have a combination machine too. The B48's been really popular. It is a combination overlock and cover hem machine. So I personally like them as two separate machines because switching the setup back and forth from the serger to the cover hem, you have to go through various steps. You have to disengage the knife. You have to add a cover to go to cover hem, right? You don't have the knife there and you don't want it to cut the fabric. So there's some advantages and disadvantages to either machine. So I showed you how to use it as a decorative finish, but we also use it in this project to do a hem finish. So the suggested method was to use your overlock machine to cover over the edge. You can imagine that that's covered. Frankly, knits don't fray that much, so you don't have to do that step. You could just iron the seam allowance underneath. So imagine that's ironed underneath. And then what you do is you sew on the top like this. Again, I would use my leader to get it perfect. Let's do it. Let's do it perfectly. Why not? We got time today. So it's a great day to sew, I tell you. It's a little bit overcast now. It was snowing a minute ago. It's like the weather changes every 15 minutes here in Whitby today. Okay, so I'm going to sew up to that point, and I've got my seam allowance turned under. I would press it and put it into place. You could use pins. I hate using pins on overlockers, so I don't, but you can if you like. Choose a point on your foot that you're going to line the fold up with. I'm going to line it up with the edge of the seam plate, the needle plate. I'll be okay. I'm making up words now. And you just allow it to go under. I'm turning my fabric under. This would all be pressed in place perfectly, of course. Just allow it to do its thing. So probably I would have pressed under an inch. Got a little excited there and went off course, but nobody's gonna know. Okay, when I get to the end, I'm gonna stitch onto my little ender piece. Feeders and enders, just like in quilting. It's just that these machines, the thread will break if I sew on the air. So I get that nice, perfect ending. And when I'm ready, I'll show you that technique one more time. My friend Diane taught me how to do this. You're just going to bring the needles to the top position, lift your presser foot, and release those needle threads. Trim them, and you can take your project. I got to trim the looper thread too. And then I'm ready to tie off or whatever I want to do. Okay, let's go back and look at this guy. Once I've done this finish here, let's look over here and see. So I've done my really beautiful cover hem. It looks amazing on the front. It's got that really nice finish. If you don't like it to be so big and noticeable, you would match your threads, and you could do it with just two needles if you prefer that. I've done that as well. And then here I've got all this excess fabric. You just trim the excess fabric away. Close to, but not cutting the threads. Those duckbill scissors are amazing for this. I like to use those And then you've got a really beautiful, professional, finished hem. Really, really nice. If you ever get the chance to use a cover hem machine, I highly recommend it. The combo machines are great too, but you have to be able to switch back and forth from overlock to cover hem. So when I'm working here at the office, I like to set the cover hem up for one job and the serger up for another job. The only exception is the new L890, which is computerized, and I just whiz through the wizard and switch back and forth for cover hem to serging in a second, in a heartbeat. It's really, really easy. But Adrian, I don't have a cover hem. How can I finish the tunic? Well, of course, you can just use your twin needle. So what I did was I added the walking foot onto my 480 at home, and I grabbed a stretch needle. I picked a 4.0 millimeter one, and that gave me this look that you can see here. It's so, I matched the threads so well, it might be hard to see the little ridge there. And I just over edged all my edges on the serger, took it over to the sewing machine, and did my twin needle work with the walking foot. The walking foot helped with the stretchy material, and it came out looking just great. I really liked that technique. It was really, really easy. At the end, when you go to sew the little straps on, let me see if I can find that here. Here they are. This is going to be a little bit upside down for you, but when you go to sew the straps on, you just, I pinned them on and made some adjustments, and then you sew from the top on the twin needle line that is already existing there, and it looks completely seamless. It's a really great finish. I'm really proud of my project, and I hope you guys will try it too. That's the moral of today's story. Does anybody have any questions about cover hem or sergers? That's great. Yeah, Anna, I really struggled a lot with cover hem and found that my ending and beginnings didn't look very good. So I really like using the little cheater where you use a little leader and ender. And I just find that the fabric doesn't go down into the needle plate, and you just get a really much more professional finish. So I'm glad you watched today and you got a tip. That's great. I hope you guys will try cover hem. We'll have more projects coming in the spring when our overlockers get here. The L890s, L850s are on their way, and we expect them in the spring. Here's my little sample machines. I've been having a lot of fun with them. My next project, I think, on these guys is going to be a bomber jacket. So watch for that. You will, of course, be able to sew it on any type of overlocker, but I know it's going to be really fun and exciting because I'm going to sew it on the L850 with air threading and so much fun stuff to learn on there. So thanks for watching today. I hope you'll try to make one of these tunics too. It's really lovely and warm. Paul, I'll make you one, maybe in camo or a stripe, and we'll be tunic buddies. Have a great couple of weeks, guys. I'll see you in 2 weeks. I think we're talking about feet, new free motion feet for both the experienced retired machines and our new machines and what you can do with them. And then 2 weeks after that, we are doing quilting in the hoop. What does that mean? How can I quilt using my embroidery machine? That's a crazy crossover. That's a mashup. I don't know how we're going to do that. That I have some really great projects for. So we have a great program lined up. We have some new classes being released to the stores over the next few months. So hopefully we'll be doing a little more of this more often. Have fun and try something new, everyone. Bye.